Hey there folks, this is Father Dougal 9000 here, and welcome to another episode of Dougal's Game Finish Chronicles, a series in which I talk about the games I have played and have beaten as part of the Game Finish Challenge off of the Hardcore Gaming 101 forum. Now, before I get started, I want to ever so briefly talk shop for a secundo. In the second game I talk about in this video, I mention how the game uses white flashing frames when you kill enemies or get hurt, and how that means I can't recommend playing it if you have any photosensitivity or epilepsy issues. However, the gameplay footage for that section doesn't have any flashing frames, and that's because I recorded some gameplay footage myself and removed the flashes manually. So if nothing else, that gives you a way of checking out the game for yourself without that issue, whether you plan on playing it or not. Just putting this out there to preempt the disconnect between me saying, hey, this game flashes too much, and the footage flashing to not at all. Today's games were originally logged from the 2nd to the 4th of June 2011. That's right, we're in the summer, baby! Fuzzy Dream for the Windows. This here is a very, very short tower defense game made by Jonathan Go for the Game Jam Mini Jam 80 Cats. You stand on a very thin tower and you fire arrows at invading cats, and your tower increases for every 5 cats you shoot. Your goal is to raise the tower as high as you can until you reach the heavens, at which point the game ends and you have the option to restart it. There's a decent bit of strategy going on here, since you have to hold the fire button until the aiming cursor is at the right trajectory for you to let loose. Think of the egg aiming from Yoshi's Island. Though it's a hilariously short game, this literally took me about 2 minutes to beat, and that includes having to restart a bunch of times, because I didn't understand that you could shoot from starting upwards and downwards, and learning that distinction is really important to making sure you aren't overwhelmed by the onslaught of cats. Skulldude for the Windows. Another trip to the land of the Pico 8. This one is a top-down action game by Jose Guerra, aka Guerra Games, where you play as a skull that shoots at a variety of enemies with fire blasts. You navigate a maze and you can find upgrades that increase your health, range, fire rate, and power. What makes this one interesting is that you automatically lock onto enemies, which lets you focus on just firing and dodging projectile attacks, the latter of which is assisted by a dash move that goes through attacks without taking damage. It makes for a brief but very compelling action game. It only took about 15 minutes, but hey, it's an action game that I actually didn't get overwhelmed in, so hell yeah. However, and I really cannot emphasize this however bit enough, hang on. However, killing enemies results in a short white flash going across the screen. When you end up in rooms that are full of enemies that die really easily, this results in the screen flashing very rapidly. If you have any photosensitivity or epileptic issues, I cannot recommend you play this game at all, because it doesn't allow for the option to turn the flashing off. At the very least, I will link a color version of the game that was made by Super Awesome Game, and every E in that has a 3 in it, in the hope that that might be the less bad of the available versions in this regard. But if that is also bad, then, just don't play this game. The world is full of cool and interesting games that won't threaten to destroy your eyes. Chase, Cold Case Investigations, Distant Memories for the Nintendo 3DS. I heard of this one a few years ago, mainly because some of the people involved in this had also worked at Sing on the Hotel Dusk and other code games back in the day. Doing a tiny bit of research, the people that did work at Sing were character designer and game designer Taisuke Kanasaki, who directed Hotel Dusk and designed the characters for the Hotel Dusk and another code series, supervising programmer Takuya Miyagawa, who was a producer at Sing, sound designer Yuki Mori, who handled the sound effects for the Hotel Dusk games and another code R, and composer Satoshi Okubo, who composed the soundtracks for Hotel Dusk and Last Window. It's a pretty decent visual novel where you play as two detectives investigating a gas leak explosion from 5 years ago, having received an anonymous call that the explosion was not an accident, but a murder attempt. You mainly spend your time reading the dialogue, but occasionally have to pick questions or topics when interviewing potential suspects that rely on you paying attention in order to get what you need. What's a bit weird is that the game is paced in such a way which suggests that this is only the first chapter of a much larger game, rather like the introduction cases you get in an Ace Attorney, where characters are introduced and things are set up that could go in interesting directions later on. But here, this is all there is. The game ends after you solve the case, and there hasn't been any word of a continuation since. It seems quite abrupt given how much is left open to be developed, mainly on the character side of things. And I do wonder if something happened during the game's creation that resulted in things turning out like that. It's a shame, but it is neat enough for what it is, and I did find myself getting pretty well into it. So if this is kind of interesting to you, give it a shot. And with that, we've wrapped up another episode of the series. I hope that you've enjoyed watching, and that you'll tune in for the next video. Thank you so much, and until we meet again, have a wonderful day.